Afternoon, everyone. Today, in discussing the First World War, we're going to be taking a little closer look at France, the sacrifices of the French nation and of the French army itself. Now, there have been many times I've heard over the years of different people actually mocking France, mocking them for not being much of a fighter, kind of stepping away from a fight, not wanting to step up when a conflict is happening. Really more of a pacifistic nation, and I've actually heard some people mock the French for that. Now, we're going to give a little bit of background on this. Now, for most of recent history over the last several centuries, France was actually quite militaristic. For a long period of time, it was one of the largest, if not the largest, army in the world. France was right up there. And going into the First World War, it's understood that they did have the largest standing army. Now, what had happened during the war from 1914 to 1918, largely through mismanagement of how the troops were used, the French suffered horrible numbers of casualties. To give an example of this, now you look at our Vietnam War Memorial in Washington, D.C. in the National Mall. It's roughly 246 feet 9 inches long, with the names of the 58,000 U.S. servicemen who fell during the Vietnam War, roughly from the time of 1965 to 1975. If one was built to the same specifications to the war dead of France from 1914 to 1918, it would be over 16 miles long. That is the number of men injured and dead that France suffered during the First World War. It is estimated that France suffered over 6 million casualties with 1.5 million deaths during the 4 years of the Great War. And so for it to be said that France is pacifistic, it's more the fact that they have had such a horrible experience. After that, France didn't want to really fight anymore. It's not that they were cowards, they just didn't want to be a part of a major war again, which is why it'll be shown down the road when we're discussing things building up to the Second World War, why they weren't so thrilled at the idea of, how shall we say, standing toe-to-toe with Hitler. Not so much that the French were cowards, most people didn't want to do that again. No one ever imagined that Europe, which was viewed to be the cradle of civilization, most civilized, peaceful places on earth, could do what it did to itself from 1914 to 1918. And a great deal of that was suffered in France. Like in the Second World War, how most of it would be suffered in Russia. So it's not that the French were cowards or that they ever were cowards. It's the fact that they suffered so much during that war that it made them kind of steer away from it. Let's not do that again. Let's not do that to our people again. So that's more the position of France. There you go.